When we talk about attack helicopters in Southeast Asia, the conversation immediately reveals three very different national approaches to firepower, budgets, and strategic priorities. Indonesia, Thailand, and the Philippines have all acquired or experimented with attack helicopters, but each in a manner that reflects their own security environment and financial reality. The result is a fascinating contrast. One country spends big to show regional ambition, another holds on to outdated equipment without a clear plan, while the third cautiously experiments with a modest fleet as it faces one of the most daunting strategic threats in Asia. Indonesia is the clearest example of a big spender. Jakarta decided to purchase 8 AH-64E Apache Guardians from the United States in a deal worth nearly $500 million. The AH-64E is one of the most advanced attack helicopters in the world, equipped with modern sensors, advanced avionics, and a lethal weapons suite including Hellfire missiles and Stinger air-to-air systems. For Indonesia, this purchase was not just about adding firepower, but also about status. The Apache is a symbol of military modernity, and by acquiring it, Indonesia signaled that it wanted to be recognized as the leading military power in ASEAN. On paper, this makes sense. Indonesia is the largest country in the region, with vast territory, a large economy, and a need to project military credibility. Yet the price of that prestige is significant. The operational costs of the Apache are among the highest in the attack helicopter category, and Indonesia must balance this burden against its other modernization priorities, such as submarines, frigates, and fighter aircraft. The real test will not be whether Jakarta can buy Apaches, but whether it can keep them flying and relevant 10 or 15 years from now. Thailand represents the opposite end of the spectrum. Its Army aviation units still operate a small number of AH-1F Cobras, relics from the 1980s that are far removed from modern combat requirements. These airframes are aged, their avionics outdated, and their combat power minimal compared to modern systems. Bangkok has discussed the possibility of replacing them, but domestic political instability and tight defense budgets have consistently delayed any serious modernization. Thailand has prioritized internal security, counterinsurgency, and stability over expensive high-end acquisitions. As a result, its helicopter fleet is largely limited to transport and utility roles, with little investment in specialized attack platforms. Strategically, this shows that Thailand does not place confrontation with external powers at the center of its defense planning. For Bangkok, unlike Manila, China is not an immediate threat. The consequence is a force structure that lags behind its neighbors in terms of modern capabilities. The Philippines occupies a very different position. Facing the pressure of Chinese maritime expansion and the constant possibility of escalation in the West Philippine Sea, Manila had long been criticized for not possessing a dedicated attack helicopter capability. For decades, Philippine forces relied on utility helicopters like the UH-1 Huey or the S-70 Black Hawk, modified with rocket pods to provide rudimentary close air support. These improvisations were useful in counterinsurgency, but inadequate for modern conflict. The decision to acquire 6 T-129 ATAK helicopters from Turkey marked a significant, if cautious, step into the attack helicopter world. The contract, valued at around $269 million, was small in scale but politically important. For the first time, the Philippine Air Force could deploy a platform designed specifically for close support, anti-armor missions, and limited air defense. The T-129 is based on the Italian A-129 Mangusta, adapted and modernized by Turkish aerospace industries. It carries a 20mm cannon, 70mm rockets, advanced anti-tank missiles, and even limited air-to-air armaments. Its compact size and agility make it suitable for the dense terrain and archipelagic environment of the Philippines. Yet it is not without its limitations. Its range and payload are modest compared to the Apache. Its dependence on American-made CTS 800 engines exposes it to political bottlenecks, as export licenses must be approved by Washington. And with only 6 units, the Philippines will not suddenly field a decisive attack helicopter corps. Instead, what the Philippines gains is a test case, a proof of concept that allows it to develop doctrine, train pilots, and explore how helicopters fit into its evolving defense strategy under Horizon 2 and Horizon 3 modernization frameworks. When we compare these 3 nations side by side, the contrasts are sharp. Indonesia invested in the most expensive option, betting on prestige and capability, but with the heavy burden of sustainment. Thailand stagnated, holding on to obsolescent platforms and showing little sign of revitalization. The Philippines chose a middle path, buying a small number of relatively affordable helicopters that may or may not expand into something larger. In terms of sheer numbers and technology, Indonesia is clearly ahead. In terms of sustainability, the Philippines' modest fleet may be easier to maintain, but lacks critical mass. Thailand, meanwhile, risks being left behind entirely. But beyond numbers, it is the strategic context that matters most. Indonesia's Apache purchase demonstrates regional ambition, but does not address an immediate existential threat. It is as much about prestige and international image as it is about real combat need. The Philippines, however, faces direct pressure from China in the West Philippine Sea. Even a handful of attack helicopters, stationed at bases in Palawan or Luzon, could have symbolic and tactical value in deterring amphibious incursions or reinforcing ground troops in a crisis. In this sense, 6 ATAKs may carry more strategic weight than 8 Apaches, because of the geopolitical reality in which they will operate. Thailand, by contrast, does not face the same urgency, and so its lack of investment reflects its strategic priorities rather than simple neglect. This raises an important question. What role should attack helicopters play in Southeast Asian defense planning? They are expensive to acquire, even more expensive to sustain, and vulnerable to modern air defenses. Yet they also provide highly flexible firepower, especially in littoral and island environments, where fixed-wing aircraft cannot always respond quickly. For the Philippines, their utility may lie not in high-end wars of attrition against China, but in localized deterrence, rapid response, and training a new generation of pilots in combined arms tactics. For Indonesia, the Apaches may serve as a deterrent to regional rivals and as a symbol of its rising power. For Thailand, the opportunity cost of neglect may grow over time, leaving its forces reliant on outdated tools while its neighbors modernize. Looking ahead, the Philippines will have to decide whether the T-129 experiment remains a token gesture or evolves into a real capability under Horizon 3. With a projected $35 billion modernization program, Manila could in theory expand its fleet or shift to more powerful platforms like the H-1Z Viper. Indonesia will need to prove that it can maintain the high cost of the Apache fleet while also modernizing its Navy and Air Force. Thailand must eventually decide whether it wants to remain relevant in the attack helicopter space or accept permanent decline in that capability. The choices of these 3 countries will not only affect their own security, but also the broader balance of power in Southeast Asia. In the end, attack helicopters will not determine the outcome of a conflict with China or any other great power. But they reveal how each Southeast Asian country perceives its own security environment, allocates scarce resources, and signals ambition. Indonesia seeks prestige, Thailand prioritizes internal stability, and the Philippines experiments cautiously while facing the sharpest threat. Each choice tells us something about where these nations see themselves in the region's uncertain future. And this is where I would like to hear from you. Do you think the Philippines should follow Indonesia's path and expand into larger, more powerful fleets? Or should it stick to modest, cost-effective solutions? Should Thailand reinvest in modern helicopters, or is it right to focus elsewhere? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to see more detailed breakdowns like this, connecting budgets, strategy, and military technology, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Your support keeps these analyses coming.